Just go right ahead, because it's here and it's now. Just move every bone to a cosmic powwow. Cosmic powwow. Cosmic powwow. Welcome to Toward a Quality of Life here in the month of February, year 2012. Where our winter has been significantly more warm than usual and in fact pleasurable weather for us here in the Northeast. Today I'm going to talk to you about the assault on freedom happening to us in the United States of America before our very eyes, under our very feet. Something very dangerous that you're not going to like 5 years down the road. You will find, oh my God, this is very oppressive. And you're letting yourself boil like a frog slowly, not knowing that your goose is getting cooked, so to speak. Before I start on that topic, I saw my bottles today when I was looking for something that I usually show to you, and I say, be careful of plastic. Plastic will more blatantly be told to be an absolute carcinogen in the many, many thousands of ways, shapes, and forms that it's affecting us, our skin, our air, our water, our internals, everything. We must say no to plastic and all manifestations of plastic, so throw it out. Ask for glass bottles on your milk and everything else. Thank you. In fact, we could all be bringing our own glass bottles into stores and getting them filled, even to save on the trashing of all the bottles that we do every day. Oh, are we in a mess? Okay, enough on environment, even though environment is our most pressing issue in the whole world. Our most horrible issue is what we do to animals. But today we're talking about an assault on freedom. And we're going into some ridiculously hard times in the United States of America. Ridiculous because look around you. No matter where you look, there is the infrastructure, there is everything in place for the society to continue going and going strong, and it's ridiculous that we would find ourselves in the predicament that we are in. And of course, this is going to have a lot to do with the person and persons occupying the White House and all the people that support them, the progressives, the leftists, and what I have called communists, by whatever name you want to call socialists, and so forth and so on. Liberals are not the same thing. As I've talked with you before, I won't go into that today. But there are people who come along in history, try to take control of everyone and everything and cause misery. This is the story of history. And this is the story of what's happening to us in the United States. People who want to control who we are, where we're placed, what we do, what we eat, how we feel, what we think, trying to control what we think. And it comes down to, as they go about this zigzaggy way of achieving this utter control and imposing onto the society a vision of where they want people to be while they prance around and have the best life possible, lots of parties, the most famous clothes, expensive trips, everything very regal. They often have to do things practically to save face and do an about change just for the moment to keep themselves where they are. And they sort of are saying to us, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes, when they do the various things that are patently untrue, but people don't mind, people don't notice, people just go along. Like saying that they would never have lobbyists and have so many lobbyists consulting and working for them. That they would have an open government. This is the most closed government. Everyone admits that on record. More closed than the previous government, more secretive. It actually punishes and squeezes whistleblowers in government that are trying to tell when things go wrong in various departments. Very, very oppressive to whistleblowers. And an administration that first says it will take public financing in 2008, then when it sees how much it can get without it, just says, never mind that, it won't take it. Then in 2012 said, oh, these super PACs are bad, so bad that during the State of the Union, last year was it, the person in charge of this country actually called out a justice of the Supreme Court about a decision to allow super PACs in campaigns as they are now, and swore up and down against it, and now is taking it. But not to worry. Are you going to believe the person who is in charge of the country, or are you going to believe your lying eyes? Or if you're not paying close enough attention, do you even know? Do you even know what really is going on? And it's also a person in charge who is on the side of corporations. And I don't mean all corporations, I mean buddy corporations like Google and GE and even Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, corporations that aid and abet and manage the control and tethering of people to what they determine we have to do or say. Oh yes, this president is very favorable to corporate control as a means to help him keep tabs and do this blanketing imposition of what he has in mind for all the suckers below him to have to be like and do. And there are also people playing very curious games and unseemly games with your mind and how they talk with their doublespeak. Go and see the movie 1984, which is several years old, very depressing movie, or read the book. And we've been said to be living through that in past administrations, but never are we being imposed upon for our autonomy, our privacy, and our right to life, our right to individuality as we are now. And this person who is president will do, as I've already suggested, anything expedient to gain re-election, but continuing underneath when there's every little opening, as there are so many cracks and crevices, especially as people don't understand, don't pay attention, don't even know, because it is a pretty not salacious or entertaining thing to have to be following, but the whole time also, most of all, caring that the president remains president and remains powerful, not only here but in general, but never letting go when the opportunity presents itself to continue to undermine the country. And if you don't think the country has been undermined, look around you. Look at how much your dollar will buy. Look at what it costs at the grocery store. Look at what it costs at the gas tank, gas filling station. Look at what's going on in the schools. They are a absolute mess. Look what's going to happen to many military people. Look what's happening to the post office, so forth and so on. And it affects everyone. I don't care what your ethnicity. Everybody is in the same barrel. And everybody is becoming more oppressed. Now remember in 2009, when the person who was president first came on the scene, instead of taking care of the difficult economic problem, and he's been faulted by many, including people from his own party, including people who are backers of him, how he did not address what needed to be addressed at that moment. After all, when you're head of a nation, you're head of the people underneath, the rich, the poor, the middle, you're head of all of them. You're the captain of that ship, and you have to make sure that they're all floating and doing as well as possible. That's your whole responsibility. You're not there to do as he did, get on this trajectory of trying to institute health care out of the blue, a very bad legislation, even though I and many other people who fault it want universal health care, want the public option and so forth, which was not allowed in. But start on that and take the whole year. You remember even Christmas time, they were still staying in Congress trying to do this, and all the seamy ways, the semi-legal, not quite kosher ways that they managed to get this thing through. What an awful situation that was. Tying everything up with that, and the president himself tying up, working on this so-called nuclear treaty with Russia, which, by the way, Russia is stepping on us to beat the band. Russia is becoming more and more and more our prime antagonist, and a little so China as well. Wonderful. That was going on in 2009, the first year of the administration. Now this year, another election coming up, the most important things that have to be done. Tax reform, do we not need? Isn't our tax system absolutely absurd? Our debt, you should see, and I will have it here. I'm speaking now and don't have the charts with me, but in the editing of this, there will be graphs of how the debt is going to just go from sort of dum-da-dum-da-dum to whoom in the next coming years because of what this president has done and what he continues to do. And then the budget that he put out for the Congress, which was extremely, again, it was over $1 trillion, and the Democrats won't even touch it. They're just going to let it sit there. They're not even going to vote on it, as they haven't in the past years that he's been president, which is not legal as well. And continuing to just put in there these fanciful things. Money talks, baloney walks, and everything has to be paid for. If you're not able to pay for things, I don't mean you, the individual, but if we as a country and a society cannot pay for things, then those things will not be had. And if we as a society can't afford more and more and more of the entitlements and everything else that we have going on, the world is coming in on us. The world will swoop on us as a vulnerable player. You must be able to pay your bills in this life. That's all there is to it. So we have to do something about our debt instead of doing, as this president is doing, fanciful ideas of increasing it as his so-called fake re-election kind of budget was put down recently. Nothing's being done about Medicare per se, and nothing's being done about Social Security. In fact, people from the Democratic Party have complained that this extension of the payroll tax cut, which takes away from Social Security money that isn't already there anyway, that this will further weaken Social Security as we move into the coming years. And don't forget that there was a debt commission that outlined all the things that absolutely had to be done, a balanced debt commission that all sides were very proud of, and not a single thing has been done about any of these problems. This president is kind of fanciful too. Nobody worries about that he puts out things that even the Democrats won't touch with a 10-foot pole just to please make certain of the people love what he's saying, that will never come to fruition and have any reality to them. And that's no problem. That's no problem for anyone. Right now, too, there is this made-up issue about contraception going on, not about economics. Why? Because the current administration does not want to focus on that there are 19 million people of the workforce that are either underemployed or unemployed. That's up from 15 a while ago. And they say that the true unemployment figure is 9% now, not the current 8 point whatever it is. And also the health care is not mentioned much anymore, is it? They tried to shove it down people's throats, but it's not mentioned. So instead, we're going through a debate on contraception, even though we have tax reform, massive debt, that's going to definitely, your bills come due. And then we're going to suffer, and those that suffer now will suffer more. That's how it works. That's life. Medicare, Social Security, never mind. So instead, we're talking about contraception, to say the least, of trying to force onto religion principles and ideas that the religion is based on being against, so forth and so on. Okay. All right. So this is where we are. This is where we are with, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? Look here. Don't look there. Look here. Now, I talked to you before about the strong communistic, socialistic, call it what you will, stream the administration, the fact that he taught the idea of stealth revolution back at the University of Chicago, and you know, that he's been in Occupy protests before, that he's been involved with that way back. Occupy's nothing new, and all the liaisons he's had, we've outlined that. We've done so many lectures on this. But I'd like to say today that communists attack religion. I've said that before. In fact, in Poland, when Russia took over Poland, they actually used to bring children in. They wouldn't feed them. They would get them very hungry, starving in fact. And then they would bring them in, separate them from their parents. And that's going on in this country too. There's a lot of indoctrination that wants to separate the youth from what their parents believe. And this is getting many a parent very upset, of course. But they'd bring in the youth who are very hungry and tell them, you know, to discount their religion and to follow the ideas of communism, and then feed them, you know, sort of slowly give them food based on, you know, them changing, you know, denouncing religion and accepting a communistic idea. In Poland, the idea of religion never did die, by the way, and it's one of the countries with very strong religion. But it had to go very underground, very underground. In Russia, too, religion went underground. It wasn't, it was in very recent history that all the churches started to be, those left started to be operating again. China gets rid of everything in Tibet, which is a religion, a philosophy, has destroyed everything there in order to cleanse the place to be communistic. Okay, communists are the religion. In other words, like Richard Pryor in Car Wash, if you've got to believe in something with the Pointer Sisters leading the way, why not believe in me? And out comes the preacher saying, believe in me, the preacher, okay? It was very funny. But religion is a matter of belief, and communists want you to be dyed-in-the-wool, thinking their way, following their way. And in communism, the end justifies the means. That means getting to where you're going by any means necessary. And I was not long ago reading an article that talked about the so-called new communism, talking about the okayness of using force in achieving the goals of a more communistic society. Let's look at the things that communists do to make their goals actualize. They create racism offensive. We've done that with the hatred acts we've enacted not long ago in this country. They continually use change to create confusion. They teach sex and homosexuality to children. That's going on very heavily in the school. They do huge immigration to destroy what's going on in the country, you know, to make chaos and make over heavy the burdens on the system. They empty churches. They go for social justice instead of equal justice under the law, meaning they're going to make up the rules of what's just according to what they feel vengefully or revengefully, not what is arbitrarily and as nonpartisan as possible, an equal way of looking at whatever the justice is before oneself. A control of the media, oh my goodness, New York Times, Boston Globe, Washington Post, Huffington Post, you name it, there are so many. Salon, there are so many in the president's pocket, particularly the New York Times. They're all on the same train. And as I say over and over again, you won't even find the same news in these media, TV, and newspaper outlets and web outlets. You won't even find the same news now between those and the fewer kind of, relatively fewer ones that report things that you're not ever going to find there. Okay, and encouraging the breakdown of the family. Well, I'll say, you know, I do notice there's an awful lot of pornography and you know, easiness of do whatever pleases you. Just this morning I was coming into this taping, and I I heard on the Revolution radio jokes being made, and all the crew in there were laughing, and you could hear, meant for people to hear it on the radio about the smell of a woman's personal part. I kid you not, that is very vile, very vulgar. But these kinds of things, and you see on the Huffington Post pushing and pushing the sexual containment and convention, if you will. Pushing and pushing to debauchery. All right, now freedom. Freedom for me to say what I'm saying right now. Freedom for me to think what I want to think. I'm a person who wants to think, who searches, who reinvents the wheel. Never takes, well, maybe sometimes, but has a habit to rethink what's already been thought out, to figure out how I feel or think about something. Maybe not everybody is that way, but freedom to think what are your own thoughts, your own beliefs. Freedom to speak as I'm speaking to you now. How long will we have this freedom? There's so much oppression being... Look at the way they shut up Pat Buchanan, threw him off for having a counter view of what the organized view was of the leftists on channels that he was a commentator on. Just recently this happened. Freedom of religion. If you want to say that we can't have abortion and that's your religion, or just that we can't have abortion, that is your right. Freedom of affiliation, to affiliate with whom you want. Freedom of what your sexual beliefs are. What could be a more personal freedom than to believe how you will and act how you will with your own sexual beliefs and not have someone criticize you for them. Your own beliefs about what's good for your body. I will tell you that recently the government, the federal government, just shut down an Amish farmer who'd been selling fresh milk, raw milk, from his natural cows that aren't fed a lot of this other stuff that cows in corporate farming are fed, corporate industry. And people came from far and wide to buy this, or he sent it out to them, and also other products from his farm. The Fed says, no, you can't have raw milk. People love raw milk. They believe it's more healthy for you. The Fed says, no way, and the Fed shut down the man's farm. Kids are getting thrown out of school for ridiculous things because somebody decides you have to go down this narrow pathway. We're the smart ones. We're in control. We're going to make you think and say either you've toed the line, we're the bosses. And we've got a couple of bosses in Washington, D.C. too, living royally, when in fact they should be talking to us about making sacrifice and lead the way by example. And you're not elected when you're a president to control what people say, think, do, or believe. That has never been part of what a president is supposed to be doing. Do you know that now, for example, the ramifications of this kind of stuff go on, and they're only beginning. For example, there are some obstetricians that won't take persons who are overweight in their health service charge because all this pressure has been put on the idea of what you eat and how much you weigh. And nobody should tell you how much you should weigh unless you want your doctor to tell you, because you engage your doctor to tell you these very things. That's what you're there for. You engage a dentist to do your teeth. You don't engage a president to tell you what your weight should be. But if anybody shouldn't be telling you what you should eat, what you should weigh, what you should think, or what kind of principles you should have in your organization, least of all, it should be the government. And do you know that this government is doing a lot of nasty things that George Bush, which was not a good administration, I grant you that 1,000%. But one of these many, hundreds and hundreds of things that I tell you would have been plastered on him and said about him over and over and over and never let go of. Not here. Are you going to believe him or your lying eyes? Do you know that people are getting arrested and abused? We had that Bradley Manning case who was the one that got the documents for WikiLeaks off I believe the Pentagon computers, was it? Do you know that even the left, mostly the left, was complaining how he was abused in prison? Nothing changed as far as I know. That was allowed to go on. That U.S. citizens, now a law since this president has been made, U.S. citizens can be secretly held without knowing the charges against them indefinitely, and they can be secretly killed too, especially with these drones. This is this president, not George Bush. And there is intimidation to people. It's very much Nixonian. All these campaigns to report on people if they talk against the president. All these efforts to censor people and censor their freedom. Freedom is losing ground fast. What do people suffer for in every country of the world? Where has history been coming? History has been coming forevermore towards freedom. That's inside the soul and psyche of everybody. Eventually will be brotherhood, sisterhood. Eventually. We can't even see that far if we maintain as a species. It's hard to say if we will. Who knows the future? But freedom is fundamental to life and a yearning and a motivator of people for time immemorial. And we've come a long way, and we're going backwards now in the country that has been, without a doubt, the greatest for freedom. Perfect freedom? No, but a step, a gradual evolution. And the other thing is, too, you have these people trying to control your life, tell you what to do, say, think, and everything, and they don't even know what they're talking about. This is not only that, they're basing, what are they basing it on? Are they the experts? Are they the doctors? Are they the mentors? Are they the ones that are knee-deep in knowledge about the things they're talking about? Heck, our president knows nothing about green energy from what I can tell, as far as like what it really entails and how viable it is, and the fact that so much of it is so far away from ever becoming a reality, to talk about it as though it's right around the corner and we can just forget about that. We're going to need to drive cars and pay for the gas and heat our homes and do everything else for years to come in the meantime, with some kind of way to be able to do that. And does he know? Does he understand? And also, for example, with the oil drilling issue of stopping it in the Gulf, remember that? And he's going to tell you, or you're going to believe him and not your lying eyes, that he's done more to have oil drilled in the country than anybody else. Meanwhile, all it is the drilling that was done, was given license before he came into office, now getting started or being in progress, and he's saying he's done more for it than anybody else. But I remember too when the Gulf of Mexico happened, something I believe the president should be really was a crime, and a high crime and misdemeanor to the world, because that Gulf of Mexico is forever permanently ruined massively, and what it did to animals and what it did to people, how it was handled. I'm not going through that again right here. I've gone through it before. But that alone is a high crime and misdemeanor. But I remember that in the beginning, when BP was his pocket friend there, pocket money friend, one of those kinds of corporations that he likes, where they're going to rule the world together because he needs the parts. Yeah, his empire. Yes, BP was right in there on the cap and trade stuff and all that. And he was very much against oil drilling. And then he went into a meeting with top people in the oil industry. This was prior to that BP oil rig being opened up and allowed to drill. Or somewhere in that time period before the whole mess happened. And he comes out after that meeting, after having said how oil is so bad and everything all the time, he says, there's no problem with they're perfect, I'll quote, he used the word absolutely safe. What the heck does he know about it? Making these kinds of pronouncements, in charge of what to do and in control of things that aren't not his purview, and look, if all right. Then when we had the healthcare thing, remember the crazy examples he was giving about doctors and so on. Never spoke with real doctors and watched how an office has to try to struggle these days, how some are going bankrupt, how it's very difficult, not like what you think from before. Yes, older physicians are still in a good situation, but newer ones are not. It's no longer sort of the lucrative thing that people might commonly believe. But remember when he'd give examples of doctors cutting off people's limbs, instead of administering medicine or something to that, crazy, crazy things he was talking about that made no sense. And a lot of the examples he gave turned out to be false, too, of humans and predicaments they were in. Green companies. What does he know? This is unbelievable. Yesterday they were asking him, you and I, we have to go out, we have to pay those dollars to our gas tank. This is getting desperate. This is getting ridiculous. And he was talking about algae. Well, algae, who knows when or where? What kind of fantasy are we talking about? That was his answer about sort of the green solution. Okay. And shovel ready, when he said shovel ready, throw that word around. Then one day, not long ago, he made fun of that contemptuously. In a speech, he said, I said they were shovel ready. Oh, really? Well, guess what? The United States of America and its people that pay for the handicapped and the mentally ill and people that need help of every sort doesn't have the money of $1 trillion to waste. And all the other money that you waste every day on the green companies that have gone bust one after another, that have been fraudulent from the get-go, and yet, because they're bundlers and fundraisers for you, you've given them huge amounts of our money, so take your vacations. And also in the book by Susskind, it was told how his advisors were trying to give him the basics of economics when he first came into office. And he refused to listen. He was stuck on a certain idea of how economies work. I mean, how much can any one president know, no matter who he or she is? But to go around and to insist on things and to talk about them and have no clue in domains that you are not elected to be into on people's lives. This government has been very harsh on medical marijuana, closing down medical marijuana facilities, causing a lot of trouble there. Then the Amish farm they closed recently. There's a lot of taking of people's land without really due process these days on the basis of certain things about environment. But wait a minute. Who made you guys suddenly some kind of cops? They're stopping things at the border that aren't packaged right. They went into Gibson Guitar and took the guitars, even though on the basis of the wood they used, which is legal out of the country, I believe, of Indonesia, but supposedly not legal here, but left, and Gibson people, I guess, are Republican, left the other guitar makers untouched. The cops just went in, confiscated 2 times, I think. Just like that. Hey, it's in court, I'm sure, but whoa, when are they going to come for you? And also this president has spoken about consolidating executive power. He said he recently made a statement that he'd love to consolidate power more to get more things done. He's never liked going through people. He's made a few statements. You see, when he doesn't use a teleprompter, he sometimes has these cutesy-wootsy little interviews with ABC or what, George Stephanopoulos, sort of pre-programmed, you know what the questions are, you're well-versed, and so on. But off the cuff, what little he does of that, you can hear sometimes. And he has few times said, that how it's a problem that he has to deal with a Congress or that he has to go through people. Too bad he can't just do it. Okay? Who does that? Tyrants and dictators. He has said in the past he wished it were like China here, where he could just do as he wants, okay? So listen, you suckers, if you have your own ideas, this is a president who's going to do as he wants, and you fall in line, or you're on his enemies list. In his State of the Union address this past year, he talked about working as a team to be like, how nice it would be if we could be like the military that works as a team, not have personal ambition, and have no differences amongst us as to how to proceed, etc. And crony capitalism. His buddies, these Cylindras and all these GEs and Googles and Soros and so forth. And, you know, it's very interesting that the president has given money to Brazil for oil and Mexico for oil investigation. Not to us, though. And Soros, at least in Brazil, was involved in an investment there that we gave the money for, okay? Our country giving money for them. And Soros is so often, as is Buffett, a recipient of the benefits of what the federal government is doing. Those two good pals of the president tend to make a lot of money with the different things that the president spends money on. And as I said, these crony capitalists bundle for him, fundraise for him. And this bankrupt, most notorious one, although there are so many, wasted money. This Cylindra, that's the most famous one, actually the court just okayed, they're in bankruptcy now, the court just okayed that their top people, many of their top people are going to get bonuses. Not only did they lose all the money, just waste it, they're going to get bonuses, and the Fed is, you know, it's the Fed's money that's behind them. This president gave money to Kenya on when it was getting a constitution about Sharia law, abortion, and also worked in favor of Mr. Odinga, a communist. I don't think he did prevail. Illegally at a time when he was a state senator. So doing things with our money that are, you know, doing a lot of things that are either, I don't know, doesn't look legal to me, like not making a budget every year. How can you know what you're doing if you don't have a budget? Especially on the scale, you can't do it in a household, never mind at the scale of the United States government. No concern for how the money's spent, squander it. We don't need it. We're just suckers. No concern how much is spent. And just to give you an idea, too, of this $15+ trillion deficit that we're in now, debt, I should say. The oil companies in a given year make altogether about $88 billion in profits in the United States. Imagine how much money it is if we're talking trillions. That means thousands of billions. It's hard to imagine how much money we're in hock for. And the proverbial stuff will hit the fan. And by the way, when Mr. Obama's wife, the First Lady, goes on vacations, you know some of the time she takes a few hours earlier, her own planes, her own security, that much increasing the cost of what we're paying. Then there is the General Motors auto bailout. Recently, an order has been made that the government, or I don't know if it was passed as a resolution or if it just was made as an order, that the amount that's going to be given by the government to credits to persons for buying this Chevy Volt is going to be increased beyond what it was even before. And don't forget about GM, which the president's going to use as a good thing. They still owe us lots of money. He's going to make like they don't. They still have huge tax benefits into the future. That's money we're not going to get. And they still get money for each car sold, et cetera, et cetera. But he's going to tell you, and I'm going to tell you, don't believe the hype. enemy lists. He's got enemy lists. He had one on healthcare, remember? He told people, call us, email us, give us the emails, the addresses of anyone that speaks against the healthcare. Remember that? Then he had a truth squad in 2008. This is unbelievable. Listen to some of the questions. Which incident are you reporting? The squad would be reporting people, in theory, in Missouri. They had attorneys and sheriffs banded with them to be reporting people. For example, you could be that you mocked or questioned or satirized Obama, that you mentioned that he had a questionable religious background, that you mentioned he had a 20-year affiliation with Reverend Wright's church, that you mentioned that he had many affiliations with extremists. These were things that could be listed on this form of the Truth Squad to quote unquote, fight the lies, fight the smears, so to speak, to report people, their emails, who they are. How did you find their relationship to these untruths? They sent me an email, they sent me a link to a website, I overheard them, and so forth. How dangerous are they, who are they, our NRA member, and so forth. Imagine that, okay? Truth Squad. Now he's got Fight the Smears, and he's got 3 websites, and these are like enemy lists, there's one called Attack Watch, where they want, in other words, where's the freedom? If I want to say something, if I want to say to you, I don't like the color of your dress, I have a right to say that. Or if I want to say, I don't believe you're a Christian, I have a right to say that in the United States of America, in the existential life, the moral life, the true life. His disregard for laws, I've already made several mentions of them. But also on immigration, very lax, even letting people stay who have criminal things against them. When he said he's just going to ignore the DOMA Act, the Domestic Marriage Act, which I guess has been thrown out. I don't know if it was a state court or the Supreme Court recently that came down with a conclusion on that one. Voter intimidations just let pass with his Justice Department. The way the legislation is made, oh boy, they stretched what is kosher and acceptable to do, legal to do, especially with that health care law, no budgets, and so forth. Oh, what about all the guns sent never to be traced, thousands of them into Mexico and South America through the ATF, and now stonewalling, nobody wants to own up to it. Thousands of high-powered, the latest big automatic rifle, whatever those are, weapons sent south of the border. Freely, okay, no problem. What for, ladies and gentlemen? What for? And who's coming in through the border? Are you kidding me? Not terrorists? Are you kidding me? Do you think they can't pay someone who has a dime or less in his pocket to take something over the border for them? Or to be messengers through the border for them? Not fair. Not fair. People are getting overrun with criminal activities of desperate people coming through the border too. Okay, so anyway, theirs is a secular religion. We know best. And we're going to make this place into, and you've got to fall in line. They believe that men can be masters of the universe. Scientists thought that too. There ain't no such thing. I'm not into God, as I've said to you before. I'm not an atheist. I'm just not about that whatsoever. But I do know this, that whatever the universe is, how I got here, how it could ever be, it's magic beyond belief, and it certainly has nothing to do with me as a highly, highly fallible, subjective, and rotting flesh. In other words, you're born to die human. That's all I am. I'm not omnipotent, I'm not omniscient, or any of those things. That's all I know. And I know that humans are but one of all the species of the creation, if it was a creation, and an insignificant one, too, if you really think about it, although we think we're so great. Okay, so anyway, theirs is a secular religion that we can manage things according to what we want to have happen. And also the I'm right, you're wrong. Remember when I told you how the president used to, when he'd be interviewing someone to be in his cabinet or whatever, he'd say to them, I'm the smartest guy, you know, no matter how much you know, I'm the smartest. I'm the smartest. And you're to do as I say, and actually a lot of what's being done, if you look at it psychodynamically or just in the sense of sensitivity and so on, a lot of it is contemptuous, it's a contempt, and it's vengeful. And God is being removed. God, you know, God, what's God got to do with it? As Tina Turner might say, huh? What's God got to do with it? When the president was saying a line from the Declaration of Independence a few times, he left God out of it. The prayer, the use of the word God and so on, and sort of semi-religious ideas that Franklin Roosevelt used before D-Day is being left out, last I heard, of the memorial in Washington, D.C. being done now. And Mr. Obama had kind of a sort of throwing off of something that the Congress did recently when they voted to keep "In God We Trust" as a national motto. It was like, pfft. So I want to see, even though I'm not about God, I want to see in my leader, for my taste, and I'm sure many people do, I want to see a God-fearing man or woman who knows, when I use the word man, I mean woman too, who knows we are mere mortals, we are extremely constrained in how much we can know. Constrained and captured and imprisoned by our very biology and being aliveness, actually. But I like to see somebody who has some kind of a sense that there is something bigger than he or she, and there are moral principles to follow. Not just moral principles, but there are things to be sort of take notice of and be aware of, and to shrink your sense of how great you are and what you can do in life as just an insignificant and frail, really frail human being. And the only steady thing that is going on, two steady things. One, that power is maintained, and you get the sense that one will, for example, right now the person who's president is going around saying, I've got to have 5 more years. You know, I've got to have 4 more years after this one. Most presidents would say, well, if people want me, I would love to be the president. I hope they do. No, this one's like, I need it, I want it, we've got to have it. And the only steady thing is the undermining of our strength, our health, our welfare. We don't have a code of ethics and honor of the kind that we're used to. You know, honor meaning that you suck up and you do the things that take some sacrifice and some morality and some self-control to achieve. The other thing, as I said before in the beginning, that the president is all over the place with what he does, depending on, like, he goes out and he pushes this undermining to a certain extent. Then it comes back at him. He sees the polls are down. He sees, uh-oh, I can't do that because I'll be going too far. Then he does something that you might think is out of character just to keep himself in the game. In other words, but he still has that underneath thing that continues to wear away at the fabric of the country. But some of the times he's done stuff just for fortuitousness, for serendipity, for what it would achieve at the moment, is like in 2010 when he gave that, was it 2010 or last year? I can't remember. When he gave the tax break, he allowed the taxes to continue at the same rate for high-income people. And now he's talking about giving a corporate tax break. which may not be, I don't know the details of it to say enough about it, but that's to make it look too like he's getting that covered because so many people are thinking that that's a good idea, and he's finding it, even though it's not to his liking, he's finding it something practical to do, even though it wouldn't match the philosophy, if that's what you can call it, or the secular religion that he's all about. And of course, he's talking about contraceptives and contraception. He's put that forward as a very big deal to be occupied with, while the real stuff that's killing us night and day is going untalked about. And another thing that he does very often is, this is one of his mode of operation, that whatever he's guilty of, he turns against people who are his opposition and accuses them of being guilty of it. And everybody just watching him, believing him, should I say, oh zombie, zombie, oh zombie, zombie. What he's guilty of is he's you see him, oh look, he looks so nice, the daughters are so, oh look, Michelle looks lovely, oh wow, this is great. Well, he throws at other people what are the faults of himself. So he tells the Congress not to play politics, for example. Oh my goodness. And he won't even go over and talk to the Congress. A president's supposed to be a wheeler-dealer. A president has to be very people-friendly. Because how do we get by anywhere, in any organization, anytime with our neighbors on the street? By having friends, by having liaisons, by, rubbing elbows with each other. This has to be done. And he made this cute little thing now where he's got Congress as being to blame now. Not he, who won't go near them, doesn't want anything to do with them, that can't stand going through the normal processes that it takes to get true stuff done, or worthwhile stuff done, or the right stuff done. And one general said recently that he was amongst soldiers, I think wounded soldiers, wounded military, I don't know what branch. And the general said, he was complaining he refused to shake hands with them, sort of in the background behind the scenes. He was refusing to have to go out and shake hands with the military people. Everybody says that he's in a very, very tight circle of people. Doesn't go beyond that. Very, very distant. That's been said by people that like him, people that don't like him, and so forth. So, Mr. Obama is surely for Mr. Obama. And you know what is the shame of it? That's his number one thing. The second thing is to create this stealth revolution, okay? But before that happens, he'll never let go. And I say, it's too bad that he uses the country for himself. It could be any country. It's too bad he uses the country for himself. Because a president should use himself for the country. I.e. meeting with people, negotiating with people, sweating with people. And a president should love the country. Otherwise, don't step up and pretend and pretend. You should love the country. Now I say to you listening out there, what about your own life? Has it been getting better and easier? Or are you under the spell? Do you dare speak, or do you not dare speak? There are school slogans going on about the president. They're teaching kindergartners to do this kind of rhyme thing, sort of semi-rap thing, very vacuous, that, the president loves basketball, da, 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 da. I never heard of such stuff, but I did hear of it in North Korea. I did. And there's a move to have one curriculum in schools for the whole country. And there's moves of what's going to be in that curriculum. And there have been situations where schools have been teaching pro-communist ideas, anti-capitalist ones. And a lot of the beliefs being perpetrated on people don't go well with people of differing views, people of religious persuasion, and that goes for all ethnicities. Everything I say goes for everybody, all classes, so to speak. And guess what? This 1%, guess who they are? The 1% is government officials. The 1% is people in the very Congress. The people who would help you become what they know you could be. Miss you-know-who in the House of Representatives. These beautiful, wonderful people are doing for your own good, ladies and gentlemen. Never mind personal ambition. Just get with the program. The 1% is the government. The 1% is Hollywood. The 1% is sports. The 1% is Wall Street. Life's getting worse. You ain't seen nothing yet. Our bills are coming due. And instead of getting serious and helping each other and making sure this country remains strong and affords opportunity, etc., we're just letting time pass by and letting all these things happen while we sleep, while we mentally sleep. Get 4 more years of this after this year with no constraints. Even then, he could change the Constitution, or he could not change it. That would be, well, he could do it. He could say, I've got a new rule of how to change it. I mean, that's how he operates. He could change it. He could be in power forever, as is done in other countries. And I wish we would have a better grip on what life is like under communism. You have no idea. You won't have the toys you have. The least, so to speak, economically among us have iPhones, have televisions, plasma TVs, have cars, have places to live, have at least adequate heat. In the summer, they might have air conditioning, adequate heat in the winter. They might have air conditioning in the summer. Hell, they have ice cream. They have candy bars. They have peanut butter. They have what we don't have, even when we're economically disadvantaged. Wait till you see what you get with communism. Wait till you see how poor really is. And wait till you see when not everybody carries his weight equally, as of course happens, and people go under and around the system to get by, and black markets flourish and everything. How ridiculous. What we have is a guy behind the mirror, a guy behind the curtain, remote, distant, egotistical, with a decided stealth idea of what he is perpetrating, and a distinct intention and tenacity to hold power. Ladies and gentlemen, let them eat cake, as Marie Antoinette said. Let them not go on vacations like I do and spend needless extra money and stay at only the best places and have the best parties all the time, even while the Gulf of Mexico dies and continues to die. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm done on this for today. I thank you kindly. Please, please, pay attention if you can. It's not fun. You're tired when you come home from work. Pay attention if you can. You're losing so many of the gains we've made to date. So I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, for tonight, God bless America. God bless everybody. We are making progress. We can continue to make progress. We have all the rules, Constitution, philosophies in place that enable us, if we all participate and get our brains cooking and get more motivated politically, as we really should be, because it's not right to be a citizen of any place in the world and not be politically motivated. Politics is your obligation. It's your very lifehood. We can do what we need to do in this country to make it better by being aware, being more informed, and knowing what's going on and what's in our best interest. Thank you very much.
It's fun and it's warm, it's just cosmic power, cosmic power.